Hello, everyone. You're listening to Truth Cat Radio at truthcatradio.com. The time is now 8:02 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's East Coast, USA. My name is Richard Kary, and you're listening to Beyond the Matrix. Well, this airing, uh, I don't really have much good information the way I'm interpreting it here. But I'm going to share with you, whatever information I've come across. We're getting so much propaganda in the media here. It's just ridiculous. So, yeah, this airing, I want to discuss the current era. First, I just would like to take a moment to mention that we are completely listener supported, and we don't monetize or accept any sort of corporate advertising whatsoever, And because of that, though, I mean, we are just completely dependent on what, you, the listener, chooses to do to try to help out. I know it's kind of tough, the economy for a lot of people out there, but sometimes just that little bit you might have to spare could make all the difference. We appreciate any amount, even just some oddball kind of small loose change or what you have left over after bills for the month, maybe. And, a lot of times those smaller donations are help just make sure we stay in the black, push that little bit over the edge. There might be some people who regularly donate every month to help us and Stephen, all of us here at Truth Cat Radio. But, yeah, like I said, those small spur of the moment sort of, I just thought last minute maybe I'd donate something. Those are sometimes, the people who help just make sure we go from being a little under our budget for the month to making sure we get all the bills paid, especially with the upgrades we've been trying to do, the quality of the signal, sound, server, everything. We do want to keep that for you, all the quality hosts, information, guests, and yeah, we do appreciate that support. So please do what you can when you can. And our support page at truthcatradio.com has PayPal. A lot of people like the convenience and relatively secure means of donating through PayPal. So thank you again for whatever you can do to help, as I said. And this airing, as I said, I want to discuss, well, these speculations about what's going on with Trump. Basically, I mean, some are suggesting Trump may be reasserting himself. Now, I don't know. Perhaps I'm guilty of being a bit of a pessimist at times. I know that's not the best attitude to convey when I'm broadcasting with a show with this sort of intention. But at the same time, I'm trying to be a realist here and weigh things and analyze things. So this might be a little more critical than on the upside as far as some of my shows go, just to state right off the bat here. But, well, as I said, some are suggesting Trump may be reasserting himself as the Trump we all knew and loved during his campaign. The White House staff may be replacing a number of key positions is what's unfolding here, and there are a lot of articles, stories coming out from a lot of sources in the independent media, not just the corporate dribble of the talking head establishment. So we are getting a lot of opinions, even outside of the controlled circles, but it's hard to really know what to make sense of. The first impression I had when I first started hearing this information, say Monday, over the weekend, end of the weekend or Monday, really, is when this was starting to come out. I just assumed the best of intentions, and as I started looking at these articles more, it seemed like they were trying to spin them even from the independent media sources. They're trying to spin it all as a good thing. Okay, but you have to read on, it seems, really, to then base your own more subtle interpretation is what it really comes down to. So this is just a broad brush that really has taken even the independent media with a lot of, as I said, conflicting opinions. The interpretations of this are not very concise, if you have to say the least. But well, yeah, I'd like to just analyze some of these details, whether or not these changes will be for the better. And Trump is being told to go big, that he has nothing to lose. He has possibly already lost, though, it's starting to look like a deep state is still alive and well. And yeah, as I said, those who are not quite so optimistic are already starting to really question the futility of those who have elected him into office. Question the likelihood of it being futile. I've entitled the heading Coup d'etat à Trump. That would be French. A coup d'etat, also known simply as a coup, but more specifically, a coup d'etat is more concise, or an overthrow. Is an illegal and overt seizure of the state, of a state, nation state, by the military or other elites within the state apparatus. It varies how it can happen. We saw the approach in Ukraine, for example, as one recent illustration. The phrase coup d'etat, literally in the French, meaning stroke of state or blow against the state. Okay? In the French, the word état, denoting a sovereign political entity, the state. Although it's really been associated with more specific and less specific. There's, if I could go further in the definition, but that is, I think, just the important thing to just keep in mind that this is generally planned, and it's a focused overthrow. Okay. Attack on the state, a stroke of state. So keeping that in mind, the way a lot of these articles are trying to spin it, they're trying to spin it as only a good thing. Any of these changes, major staff shakeup is what it's being called. Some of the highest positions at the White House could be included in this, possibly all the way up to the chief of staff. And Trump is considering removing, well, 3 plus, more than 3 high-level positions, basically. They're calling it a major reboot. See, they have all these phrases to just kind of try to tell you ahead of time how you're supposed to interpret it. Okay? Now, we already had this recent information, of course, the recent past about James Comey, FBI Director James Comey, and it's been tossed around with a lot of different people with different motives as to the reasons for that. So Trump already decides to get rid of Comey, and now we're talking about him replacing White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus, and then Steve Bannon, from formerly, and still also of Breitbart. He was chief strategist, so he's going to replace Steve Bannon. Chief strategist is what they're saying. And press secretary Sean Spicer. Some of the names that are being fingered here. Now, Director of Presidential Personnel Johnny DeStefano seems to have control of the helm. DeStefano, being the director of presidential personnel, he gets to decide whether a lot of these transitional appointments would hold or not. And so some of these positions I've previously mentioned here included. And basically, it's a transition period. It ends May 22nd. And, it's his choice whether or not to make those permanent, those temporary positions. So, it seems like a lot of these people, like DeStefano, are closing in on Trump, once they've had their power and their positions secured the first couple months here. And, just trying to second guess a lot of what he's doing. Now, some of these articles are, trying to be very impartial, okay, in the independent media, but in the proceeds, a lot of them are spinning them as, things like, as I said, that are only going to be good changes. But, I mean, really, anyone who analyzes and reads them in full does not really have that impression as to what I get from it. Now, we're hearing a purge of Trump loyalists being in effect. This is what they're calling it, a possible May massacre. All right, this is the attitude with this director of presidential personnel, Johnny DeStefano. So he's really enjoying his authority in this role. If these are phrases that are coming from his people, but at least just to even interpret it that way, Paul Craig Roberts is out there, and he's, for those who don't know, he was in the White House in the Reagan administration. He does a lot of interviews since then, but he's quite knowledgeable because he was an inside guy, and back then, 80s Cold War era, Reagan era, with Bush at the helm behind him. But Paul Craig Roberts, early 81 to early 82, he was Assistant Secretary of the Treasury for Economic Policy. But he's out there and he's saying he's getting the sense that Trump will not be the president for much longer. Now, he still has a lot of contacts, friends, he knows on a personal basis he keeps in touch with. Who are still active in the White House, even though he's now out of all of that. And yeah, that's what he's hearing. So yeah, to get the sense President Trump will not be the president for much longer is not too good as far as at least what some of these people's intentions are for our president. And I think it also reinforces that, this is really someone who the people did want and elect. Otherwise, they wouldn't have such a problem with him. That just goes without saying, I think. I'm surprised how many people don't catch that obvious fact. I mean, just how much the entire corporate media is aligned against him is very telling. The people who don't have that occur to them, it really fascinates me. I mean, the fact that even after he became the president, not just during campaigning, for the corporate media to be so extremely the way they are, yeah, it tells you something right there alone, folks. We actually we were hearing at the beginning of the week, just this past Monday. I mean, Trey Gowdy, was potentially interested in this position for FBI director, and that would have been great, because he's one of the only people with integrity, along with perhaps Jason Chaffetz, but Trey Gowdy, we're hearing, has now declined the FBI director position. It seemed like it was literally a one-day flip, between him saying he's interested in the reports to the media and then suddenly declining officially. Following former FBI Director James Comey's firing, Susan Rice had directed her lawyers to contact the FBI. And this was about acquiring an immunity deal. Okay? So Susan Rice knows something, and she wants a clean way out. So I mean, a lot of this information, of course, is just slipping under the rug conveniently. It won't be reported in most circles. No, you're just hearing about Russia, and that Trump is I don't know what, trying to restore the USSR with Putin. I don't know what they want us to believe. This is absurd. Now, we have to oversee the investigation into this alleged Russian interference with the election. Former FBI Director Robert Mueller. I mean, they're just trying to do the whole show, all the bells and whistles. And, if they try real hard, maybe it'll be real, is basically what this seems like. It's more appearances. Politics is perception. And that's the most disturbing part. I mean, that's why we have so many of these corporate headlines with these accusations. And then you'll see, like, all the way buried at the bottom of page 6 or 8 that, there actually is no evidence to support any of this. And, no one ever notices that part. Conveniently. But yeah, so we have this Robert Mueller appointed to oversee the investigation into Russian interference in the election, which is just complete and utter fabricated nonsense. Anyone in America who's been keeping up seriously with the independent media will know this. Overseas, most people in other countries are laughing at all of this. And I mean, the U.S. government is becoming such a joke. All right. We just have to remember that we're not part of it. I mean, the citizens of the country are not the government. It's two separate entities. And, we don't need to let it reflect on how we perceive ourselves. That we're evil just because our government is. But well, I mean, yeah, so they're gonna push this as far as they can, is what it's looking like. I mean, they would love to see an all-out coup d'etat out Trump, him ousted. No, you're not gonna do 4 years. You're gone. Just trying to shake up too many things here is what's being suggested. But it's amazing how many factors lead you further and further down multiple rabbit holes. in all of this. I mean, it's just one thing after the other. But now we have, well, this Robert Mueller looking into the investigation. This is just, a never Trumper. Okay. This is just more of the same of what we had with Comey that we're going to have with Mueller. There's no question about that. When Robert Mueller was the FBI director, James Comey was the deputy director, And then Comey slid in there. So, I mean, this is infighting at its heaviest, because, I mean, the information about what Hillary was doing is information that can really bring down so many people in the government that they, both Republican and Democrat, that they just won't take the hit, Trump and a few people he tried to appoint are newcomers to all of this, okay? But the establishment has a lot of people that they are not willing to, have go down without a fight, and if they do, they're going to be selling each other out left and right. I can assure you of that. But, well, I mean, like I said, we're hearing Susan Rice directing her lawyers to contact the FBI about acquiring an immunity deal. Former FBI Director Robert Mueller being appointed to oversee this investigation. Of course, they're going to interpret. I mean, so far, everyone's just been saying, well, it just makes sense that Russia must have hacked, I don't know. With these people, we really think that, I mean, this is worse than McCarthyism, because no one's believing them this time. So it's just, I don't know. It's just really odd. I guess there are some people out there who are buying the Russia stuff, but that stuff I don't think most people. But they're like, just, make the lie big, repeat it often, and make it loud, and eventually, just you are hearing too many people who are just hearing about, oh yeah, I heard about this Russian interference, this and that, just because they just say it enough times, and people don't look into these things themselves. So all of you, people who are actually willing to listen to shows like these, you're the ones who need to spread the word more, I mean, we're the ones who need to spread the word to the people we know who aren't willing to take those extra steps to be knowledgeable. They assume they're knowledgeable without effort. And that's the biggest flaw. But I mean, yeah, this system is filled with guilty parties who are not willing to give up, basically, as an embedded deep state. And a lot of people are able to be implicated in one thing or another when you really dig further down. And we're now getting word with people such as Trey Gowdy politely declining the position for FBI director, that Joe Lieberman is now under serious consideration for FBI director. This looks like it's already a done deal, because there's pretty much no one left right now who's being suggested. And we know Joe is someone who will play ball, to say the least. So yeah, Joe Lieberman, he's most likely going to be the new FBI director. And he, of course, will continue the cover-ups of the national security state, assassinations, go along with all the secrets and corruption that they're trying to continue. Of course, he'll unleash the FBI on anyone critical of Israel as well. Joe Lieberman is a strong defender of Israel, and that certainly doesn't help with our foreign policy. with him as FBI director. We don't need more of the same, and Joe Lieberman is nothing but more of the same. He has ties to the deep state. He was involved in 9/11 from the information and what it indicates surrounding 9/11. He was very instrumental in creating the post 9/11 security state. And I mean, this would include his appointed, well, I mean, this is from when Obama took office, I believe, is when he was appointed in that role. And, well, that would be, let me see, that was 2001 when it switched to Democrat, the control of the Senate. And then he had the DHS, Department of Homeland Security. He was the chairman of the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, oversight responsibilities for a broad range of government activities. So Joe Lieberman is definitely not something we need in there. He pushed for the war in Iraq. You know, this guy is nothing but a war hawk. You know, we hear praises for him from people like John McCain, a psychotic war hawk. So that should tell you something right there. But I mean, in reality, not as far as, you know, this election, these negative accusations of Trump, you know, Russia had nothing to do with it. Trump had nothing to do with anything with the election. I mean, for that matter, we do know there was massive election fraud, and it all favored Hillary Clinton. We know that Bernie Sanders very possibly may have won the Democratic vote. And, well, I mean, as far as the voting for Hillary, that was heavily rigged in her favor all the way up to the final election. You know, we would have seen even more votes for Trump, but, you know, even with the amount she tried to, you know, massively steal some states, you know, you can't rig a landslide. That's what we saw there, of course. But the DNC emails were leaked, not hacked. You know, that is an important thing that should sum up a lot of this when they try to bring up this, Russia, that. You know, Seth Rich was the leak. Okay. And I mean, they tried to suddenly spin it differently after a few days, you know, having some person who was an official appointee to be a spokesman for Seth Rich's family. And at that point, it was obvious that it was all being controlled by the deep state. But initially, okay, a detective hired by Seth Rich's family had confirmed Seth Rich was in communication with WikiLeaks. He shared 44,053 emails with WikiLeaks. And because of him, the DNC emails were leaked. So there was no hacking. There's nothing related to Russia that had anything to do with any of this. Seth Rich was the leak, and he was assassinated. I mean, I was just hearing one account of the report mentioning how he had 2 shots to the gut. Okay, the one hit his liver and then one intestines. Okay, there were 3 holes. There's an entry wound, an exit wound, and another entry wound. Okay, one to the liver, one to the intestine. And it looked like he was going to recover, you know, and then suddenly a bunch of police swooped in, shut everyone else out. And then finally, when they let people back in and let a doctor get to him, he was on the verge of death. Okay. I mean, this is just too too convenient, folks. I haven't, for years, I haven't watched films, movies, because, it's just all computer effects. The reality is far more fascinating these days. I can't say enough. It's just very disturbing. It's not a reality I want, but it makes for great script writing. I tell you that. Now, we already had also a lot of other confirmations, that contradict all of the propaganda we're hearing out of the corporate media. Dianne Feinstein and Joe Mason have already admitted there is no evidence of a Trump-Russia collusion. Even Maxine Waters admitted, while being interviewed by Wolf Blitzer, that there is no evidence of a Trump-Russia collusion. And then CrowdStrike, which was the so-called computer security firm which claimed Russia hacked the DNC servers and hacked the election. Apparently, they are so little thought of in their own computer security industry that they were laughed off the stage at ThoughtCon. So, all of this regarding Russia, for anyone in the independent media and the world media who's been keeping track, it's just a looser and looser narrative from the U.S. government as the years go on. They expect you to have the memory of a squid or something these days, so that 5 minutes later they can tell you the opposite propaganda and it'll still sell. That's really what we're facing now. It's just really fascinating. So you'll have the whole spectrum, from the most ignorant of citizen out there to the most knowledgeable and furious. Usually goes along with that, I must say. We try to control our reaction, but anger is, it's something we evolved with, actually. It's something, if channeled in positive ways, can be energy that can possibly change things. But all the people with integrity are a threat. Trey Gowdy, it looks like he was, there was some more information on that, really. And it just doesn't seem like, I have the impression from what I've seen accounted that he was threatened, Trey Gowdy, it was known he has too much integrity. He wanted to move forward with the Hillary investigation. And, this was, this was the point where he really was put on their radar of the deep state, that is. And Jason Chaffetz, as far as people with integrity being a threat, Jason Chaffetz quietly forced to step down. The House Oversight Committee chair is what turns out to be a serious death threat. When you look deeper, both he and his family. But at first, it just seemed like he was saying, "Oh, I'm not going to try to do another term." Then suddenly, it looks like I'm not going to be able to finish this term. But he was the one, he wanted to audit the Fed. And it seems death threats to Chaffetz and his family did occur. I could go into that in a little more detail if we have time later in the segment, but Judicial Watch is trying to file a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit over the Benghazi records. That was the one piece of good information, of good news I heard all week, honestly, domestically here. Because, that's something that Hillary really doesn't want out. Okay, her role in Benghazi is extensive, to say the least. And that would be great if Judicial Watch is able to push forward with this Freedom of Information Act lawsuit. We're hearing, though, that Trump is even being convinced that there are some secrets that are too big. That's what I'm getting. And it's I don't know. It might be the people around him. As I've been saying all along, I think he went in there as naive as you could possibly be, coming from the world of business. He assumed most of these people really were good people. I don't think he had any time that he dedicated to the independent media. I don't think he chatted much with people who do keep up with the independent media. I don't really think he knew much of what really goes on or what these people are really all about. And I don't think he realized how many people were going to be against him, is what a lot of it comes down to. So I think it might just be people around him who are doing this. This doesn't mean it's Trump himself. Regarding the Judicial Watch trying to file a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit over the Benghazi records, but we're hearing that someone in the Trump administration is asking the court to have a ruling to keep the information hidden. And that, as I said, these are deep, dark secrets that could bring down the whole government. It's just ridiculous how they keep trying to push on this. Oh, Trump, he can't do anything right. He passes wind in the elevator. He tap dances on shag carpeting. It's I don't know. It's funny that they're linking him to Russia and Putin, because that's the attitude they have toward Putin. Of course, he's the guy who, he's the new Hitler for the media. I hate to take other people's rants or jokes, but these are sometimes brilliant ways. Comedy can be a powerful tool to get you to finally open your eyes. They knew that. What was it? Ancient Rome or ancient Greece? I think it was ancient Greece. Yeah, they did a lot. I really think we need more of that now. Just doing more political theater, intellectual comical sense can be a powerful tool that can make it more difficult for you to be duped, basically. But yeah, we are having a lot of propaganda about Trump and this Russia thing that they just want to sell you so bad. They just, like I said, mention it enough times, and they think that the lie will somehow get into the history books, whether it was true or not. And sometimes that does happen, unfortunately, so we don't know how this is going to all turn out. But they have no evidence. Everyone's admitted there's no evidence of anyone doing anything wrong. Of course, you talk with people. Anyone who actually follows international politics, too, knows that Russia is not a threat to anyone. It's the U.S. who's a threat to a lot of the world. With their imperialism lately, getting ramped up more and more for that matter. But, anyone with half a brain who keeps up with these things knows that Putin and Russia as a whole are not a threat, have not had anything to do with our elections. It's just a joke, and a lot of people around the world know it. But with no evidence, everyone admitting it. As I said, Dianne Feinstein and Joe Manchin have both admitted there's no evidence of a Trump-Russia collusion. Maxine Waters admitted, when being interviewed with Wolf Blitzer, that there's no evidence of a Trump-Russia collusion. But we have all these people, though, that the deep state looks out for. James Comey obstructed justice, but it's okay because he's for the deep state. Hillary Clinton mishandled classified information, and don't get me started on what else she's been guilty of with war crimes in her career. But it's okay because she's for the deep state. And that's what it's coming down to here. And we have so much factionalizing in the current big government. It's really just tearing at itself, tearing itself apart along the way, and everyone's faith in it. I mean, the people are losing all of their belief in what they hear from any of these people. I mean, there's so much discrediting that's been going on in the last year alone. So much more damage. Not that the corporate media really needed that final death blow, but this has been the year that I think it's been coming to it. And when by the time this sets in, it might be a couple of years from now, might be a few years from now, but by the time this fully sets in, it's, that's why they want to do one last heavy, just complete confiscation of internet freedom of speech, because pretty soon it'll be too late. The control system will start breaking down. We see how the EU and globalism are being rejected all across Europe. And generally, the trends of Europe eventually spread here to the States politically, and also culturally. So I think that could happen, indeed. But I'm not sure where I wanted to take this. I mean, I did want to possibly go into the Clintons' past, but that really be better for a separate episode. I mean, the Clinton body count alone, people have done amazing articles, papers on it. Michael Rivero, for one, I've had him on my show. He has an amazing article entitled Clinton Body Count. They always try to block it, but I suggest you do a search with DuckDuckGo for it when you get a chance. Michael Rivero's Clinton Body Count is a great article for you to read and share. Copy the file too. Don't expect it to be up in the future. Who knows? But share that one with a lot of people for sure. Now, national security state is what we have Trump up against. I mean, the liberal media is in lockstep with it against Trump here, on full attack. And it seems like he's thrashing. Trump is thrashing right now. So, I'm not sure where all this will go. And as I said, though, I mean, we're seeing a push globally from all of the success of control. There'll be a backlash. All control systems are waxing and waning. The TTIP and TTP, a great example of this. Everyone's wising up to what they're really all about. I mean, the goal is for those to fix, quote unquote, fix the industrial systems, meaning rig the industrial systems, so that the largest corporate conglomerates, banking cartels, have the largest profits and near monopolies, if not monopolies, of most industries, drawing nation states into loose central planning regarding all aspects of trade, interventionism at the highest level, or at least interventionism at a higher level than what we've ever had, is what the TTIP and TTP want. Extract more money from the situation, virtually enslave people, and nothing more, nothing good in that. I really can't say that there's much good in that. I also can't believe, just like I said, how much, you have James Comey obstructing justice. You have Hillary Clinton, Comey went over a list of crimes they can be sure she's guilty of. And as I said, not to mention her war criminal past. And yeah, he's like, yeah, but we're not gonna we're not going to move forward with this. We're not going to prosecute. And that, of course, is not his decision. He's supposed to give a recommendation, but it's up to a court to make these sort of decisions. It's not his call to make. It wasn't, but he obstructs justice, and it's cool. Like I said, he's a deep state player, so it's cool, man. It's groovy when he does it. And Hillary, mishandling classified information, that's, oops. What? Come on. I was the first lady, give me a break. Forget about it. But Trump, he was talking with Russia about something or other. So get him out of office now. It's really a joke, okay? Because when there is evidence, they don't do anything. It's really fascinating. The more you analyze these things in your head, the more you as I said, you couldn't really write scripts this well for film and television. You really couldn't. I did cover a little while back, a handful of shows ago, a lot of details about the Obamagate situation. Just an announcement to the listeners that I believe that might be one of the ones that we had some issues with, but I mean, just so you know, we are going to still get that one up in the archives. And I mean, it does actually in this time period have a lot of relevant information. So even if we get it up in the near future, I think timing will be just about right now, but I definitely check out when it is available. The Beyond the Matrix Obamagate surveillance state. And, it has a lot of revealing information about the details that the corporate media doesn't want you to know regarding that, I hate to repeat myself too much here, but I mean, just some of it. Just so people are aware, Obama was wiretapping Trump Tower just before the 2016 presidential election. So he was purposely, helping the Hillary campaign. I mean, and trying to discredit Trump. Also probably working with the corporate media is what is apparent. So Obama as well. Okay. He's a player of the deep state, so it's cool, man, but no, fabricate something about Trump and it's enough to justify impeachment is the attitude of these people. So, the press is just going to be running with this, and then you're going to get all of the, the Soros people, Antifa people, all of them are just going to go nuts with this for as long as they can. Now they have something to run with, so they're gonna be screaming, Donald Trump, we need him out of there. Forget about this. Talking about how he's the Fourth Reich and all this, and they don't even have any of the facts. These groups are, well, we've heard enough about how much Soros engineers a lot of the public opinion of the far left. They try to present as the center in the corporate media's depictions. But it was at least a wiretap of Trump Tower during the 2016 presidential election. That Obama was guilty of, and former White House staffers and officials had been coming forward. And at that time, a couple months ago, at least, they had been coming forward stating that they were ordered by Obama to find some way to work against the incoming Trump administration. Okay? Now, this leads to the other part I wanted to go to with these shakeups, as they're calling them right now. But basically they just wanted to leave stuff there that were going to cause them problems, or people there. We know a lot of these staff holdovers are also sources of a lot of the leaks that have been getting out from inside the White House. We thought Trump was starting to find out about and take care of some of those a couple months ago there. But, during a lot of these Obama wiretap reports, allegations. But though, I mean, we really didn't go anywhere. And that's, of course, not surprising. But I mean, we heard head of DHS, Kelly, was convinced that Trump had some rather convincing evidence. The Intelligence Committee was going to be investigating, the Department of Justice was going to be investigating. And we know that they also created false evidence to even get a warrant for this wiretap. That's what the Obama administration was guilty of in all this. Not so much they wiretapped, but the way they went about this. They got a FISA warrant based on a fake website. They created a fake Donald Trump website. Wiretaps began just after a meeting between Loretta Lynch and Bill Clinton. The evidence confirmed that Obama ordered this wiretap. And originally, Obama tried to get the FBI to bug Donald Trump. The FBI declined. Obviously that was, in light of the past with Watergate, that was just not something that they wanted to try. Then Obama went to the FISA court and asked for a warrant that included the name Donald Trump. And even the FISA court, which rubber stamps 99.8% of all warrant requests, said, no, that's still too Watergate, And so then 3 days after that first FISA court warrant to wiretap Donald Trump, 3 days after that first FISA court warrant was denied, a fake Trump website was set up. I think it was called TrumpMail.com. It sounds ridiculous if that was it. Who would call their name the word mail? MAIL and then .com. That doesn't even sound convincing if that is what the name of it was, but that's what I had collected from my sources, TrumpEmail.com. But they were copying the Trump organization brand so that it looked like it was part of the Trump campaign, and it was run by a lady named Emily McMullen, who turns out to be the sister of the ex-CIA never-Trumper Eva McMullen. We had a lot of people who were set up to be against him. Now, what was posted on the website was cited, therefore, as the evidence for the second request for the FISA wiretapping warrant. That's what let them the Obama administration actually get this wiretap on Donald Trump originally. And Loretta Lynch was in on this. Okay, Loretta Lynch was guilty as much as anyone, or maybe more than anyone, possibly even. I mean, because Loretta Lynch, we know, signed off on this warrant application to the FISA court, which was then used to spy on Donald Trump, even though Donald Trump's name was not actually on it. So, she submitted false information. But so now we're seeing, well, I mentioned earlier also Chaffetz, though. And, I didn't really mention my point too much. I said I wanted to bring it up a bit more, I believe, later in the segment. Well, I know we are at about that time for a break. If I could just show how these connect, though. Obamagate information with this current shakeup. Maybe in the second segment, we could continue that. I'll just take 5 minutes for you listeners. If you need to take a break, take a breath, I know I will. And I'll be back very shortly. Oh, hello, folks. Actually, sorry, I don't know where our was expecting our station manager to be ready to jump in like a superhero at the intermission. Sometimes, with sort of independent operations, we have, we can't have everything running completely smoothly. We have kind of small staff around here. I can probably do some of these. But to mention that, please help out and support us. First of all, we have a support page for truthcatradio.com, and PayPal, a very secure way to pay, is available. And we may have just barely enough donations, some of these months. I know we have a bit more expenses now. We upgraded, we have better sound, a little bit better quality with the equipment we're working through now. And also I believe the system with the server has been upgraded. And yeah, I don't know if you noticed.
That's my cue. Oh, I figured. You're talking about the server and stuff. I figured. He's trying to do my job.
Yeah, I see you did swoop in like a superhero. Just for a moment late.
Yeah. Anyway, wow.
Thanks.
Oh, first of all, I don't know if you've done it, but shout out to everybody at Wolf Spirit Radio that's listening. Of course.
Oh yes, shout out to Wolf Spirit Radio. Yes, thank you, everyone.
Yeah. They're there.
We appreciate the added listenership.
Yeah, well, yeah. Obviously, we're happy. We're certainly happy that JP has chose to fill his slot with our broadcast at this given time, right? Anyway, all right. Well, let's go ahead and do our break. Go ahead and mute your thing, and let me go ahead and do my best here. All right. It is Truth Cat Radio, www.truthcatradio.com. You are listening to Beyond the Matrix with Richard Kary. My name is Stephen D. Kelly. This is, like I said, Truth Cat Radio, and it is Thursday, May 18th, 2017. I want to remind everybody that we are 100% listener supported, which means we really do depend on your donations. So, gosh, we got to say it all the time because it's just the way it is. But if you could drop $1 or $2 every now and then in our PayPal account, would be genuinely, sincerely appreciated. Very, very much. So the PayPal is actually StephenKelly714@gmail.com, and that address is only for PayPal. It's not for email, and you can find it under the Support Us button on our main page at www.truthcatradio.com. If you would like to be part of TruthCat in any way whatsoever, please contact me directly. My name again is Stephen D. Kelly, and if you want to contact me directly, you want to send me an email to law17gun@aol.com, which is, here we go, LAW17GUN, Law17Gun, and that's at AOL. AOL.com. Anyway, again, that is strictly for correspondence. Do not use that for any PayPal. Don't confuse it for that. We got a lot of great shows coming up. My show's coming up. Oh, yeah, I know you want to come and look at my show. Let me just pull up the title of my show because it's so memorable. I have to look at my own advertising to remember what I called it. But it's coming up immediately after this show in about an hour. Here we go. The Dark Side's Last Hope. Yep. And when I say dark side, obviously you know what I'm talking about. It's the same thing that Richard's talking about, the so-called coup attempt being made on our champion. We're going to talk all about that. And I'll have my personal spin on all these things, of course, as I know you all enjoy that. There won't be any guests, just be me. That's going to be it for the weekend for live broadcasting until you decide to start your show and do it on Friday, unless Greg Downey comes back. I don't know if he's been gone for a while. But until that happens, we won't come back until Monday when we start at 8 p.m. Eastern with Shima Moore with her show Metaphysics and More. And that's at 8 p.m. Eastern. At 10 p.m. Eastern is Joan Handgarter, a.k.a. Joan of Angels, and her show is Angel Essence. Tuesday is Daryl Nichols with the Daryl Show. That's at 8 p.m. Eastern also. And at 10 is Dave Robbins. And his show is Mystic Freedom. And Dave promised he's going to get his guest committed and he'll announce it, but he's expecting to have a fun guest. Wednesday, of course, is our Conspiracy Comedy Wednesday. We're very happy that you guys do enjoy that. And it starts at 8 p.m. with Mars Madness, hosted by Mars Theron. And after Mars at 10 p.m. is Freedom of Choice, hosted by Terry Joyce. Brings us back to our big Thursday that starts at 4 p.m. with David Simpson and Don Bass, our broadcast live from the Donettes. I don't talk about where everyone else is broadcast, but that's the only show we broadcast from that's in a damn war zone. So we're very proud of that. Right after him, of course, is Graham Sutherland, and that's at 6 p.m. Eastern, and his show is Delete the Beast, and that brings us up to this one, Beyond the Matrix, with Richard Kary. And that's our week. And once again, remember, do send us a couple bucks, okay? Please do. I know it gets old to hear that, but it doesn't just automatically happen. Seriously, I have to ask, and sometimes if it doesn't happen, I have to ask extra hard. But I haven't had to reach that point yet, thank God. But anyway, do what you can. Also, if you'd like to help us out on social media by sharing our stuff, we could really use that help. Also, it's really important, if you have not done so yet, please join the Truth Cat Radio Facebook page. We really got to have you do that. It's really, really important. We have more people on all the other Truth Cat pages, but not as many on the... we've got 3 Truth Cat pages, and 2 of them have got like 4,000, 5,000 people, but we've only got about 1,500 or so last time I looked. No, actually 1,655. I take that back. We gained 18 this week, which isn't that bad, but I'd really like to see us grow a lot quicker. I'd like to see this page get up to 5,000 people really quick. And when you do join the page and you see one of the ads for one of our shows come out, and hopefully it's going to appeal to you, please help us out. And even if you're not going to watch a show, just share it, and share it on your own page, even though if it looks like it's redundant. Your friends will see it that way, because otherwise they're not going to see it. Very, very important. Okay, that's how we multiply our reach exponentially, by reaching the friends of friends of friends. And that system concept only works if you actually share it on your own page. Okay? Now, with that, I believe I'm going to turn it back over. I'm thinking real hard if there's anything I forgot, but just make sure you stay tuned in for the next couple of hours where we will be live, and we'll probably go into recordings when my show is done at midnight Eastern. But otherwise, we do really appreciate you being here, and if you are listening to this show on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up, a nice comment, and share it again on your page. All right, share it with your friends. Anyway, oh yeah, by the way, please, if you have not done it, subscribe to our Truth Cat Facebook, or not Facebook, but YouTube page. All right, appreciate it. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you all so much, and again, shout out to Wolf Spirit and JP. It's all yours, Richard.
Thank you, Stephen. And welcome back, everyone. And thanks for sticking around. This is Beyond the Matrix with Richard Kary. The time is now 9:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's East Coast, USA. And we're talking about the possible coup d'etat that's happening with the Trump administration, with Trump, basically. I've entitled this show "Coup d'etat out Trump," because that's basically what it seems like we're facing here. What's really starting to unravel. Now, I mentioned a lot of the the information we're getting. Most of it seems at least pretty sound for what it is, from different sources of independent media. But yeah, as I said, for what it is. But I would like to, in this second hour, mention some of the connections regarding this shakeup, this so-called shakeup we're seeing here. Major reboot, major staff shakeup. They have all these terms here for it, and how it relates to a number of issues. Really, the Hillary Clinton email investigation, and then the Obamagate wiretapping of Trump Tower, and just how a lot of these people and incidents, just very conveniently fit into place. Now, I mentioned Jason Chaffetz, and I was mentioning how, well, this originally came out, mentioned it on the air a few weeks ago initially, but Jason Chaffetz, it seemed he was forced to step down. First, he said he wasn't going to be doing another term on the House Oversight Committee chair. And then suddenly he says he's possibly not even going to be able to finish this term. Okay. And, well, one thing we know about Chaffetz, Jason Chaffetz, he very much had Hillary on his radar. All right, that was one thing. Now, we had articles where Trump tells Chaffetz, "Don't slow down. You look at everything you want to look at." Okay, and this was a little while back, a couple. Let's see, a couple months. Let me see. This was initially talking about February for this first one. Okay, this first article I have here, and then we have continuations elaborating on the same. Basically, that basically they have their sights on Hillary, and just like he said, that if he won, he would continue to pursue this, Trump said, into the Hillary email issue. That Chaffetz, he basically was ready to take him up on it, and Trump was like, yeah, go ahead. Now, it seemed like, okay, well, maybe that's significant. I was thinking at first, yeah, at least had full authorization from Trump on that, and had been trying, like he was being told from Trump, listen, you do a great job. I understand, go ahead. Don't slow down, as I said, go after everything you want to go after. So, and look at everything you want to look at, so he was given all the access. And, he came away from that meeting with Trump, Jason Chaffetz, back then he was so psyched, he said, if you sat there with me and you heard the way Trump said that, pursuing oversight in government, you would be inspired. And then he's, he was really moved by Trump conveying a message of don't slow down. He thought that was a really good message that he received from the president. And then this news that the president supported the criminal investigation came just days after the Oversight Committee ordered FBI Director James Comey to hand over the contents of Hillary Clinton's email server. Now, that seemed, like it was the primary thing. I think it was just one of the things that made Jason Chaffetz too much of a threat. In retrospect, I think that it was lesser, but it was building up, But I don't think that's what pushed them over the edge. From a few other articles, actually, when I was digging more, because Jason Chaffetz, he was also, as I was mentioning, very much into wanting to audit the Fed. Okay, we had, and this was out of yournewswire.com. Jason Chaffetz shocks Democrats. We are going to audit the Fed. And saying Jason Chaffetz has done the impossible and pushed a bill through Congress ordering an audit of the Federal Reserve. Okay. Now, this was just at the end of March, this article, March 29th, 2017. And, and this was a, credible source. Yournewswire.com is definitely a credible source. But, it's saying he pushed a bill through Congress ordering an audit of the Federal Reserve. The bill would allow for a congressional audit of the Federal Reserve's secretive monetary policy and was opposed by Fed policymakers and Democrats. Okay, they somehow got Democrats on board with Fed policymakers these days. That's how much the left is misguided, folks. But however, it does have President Donald Trump's approval. Under the bill, the Fed's monetary policy deliberations could be subject to outside review by the Government Accountability Office, an unthinkable situation for the Fed's policymakers, who are used to operating with total impunity, a law unto themselves. Congress was ordered by President Trump to show more transparency and oversight, and the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform is doing just that. Trey Gowdy is handling the intelligence oversight, while Jason Chaffetz is handling the transparency oversight. Both are infamous for the dealings they had with Hillary Clinton in her private email scandal. Unlike the vast majority of our representatives, when these two guard dogs bite, they don't let go. And we have a quote, I applaud this bill. I have been a supporter of this bill for several years now. It was Jason Chaffetz who said that before stating that it is irresponsible not to audit the Federal Reserve. Okay, so it seems that really was the biggest, the thing that, well, the straw that broke the camel's back, basically, for Chaffetz. We have this other story, and this was May 1st. 2017 now, okay? And actually, this one's out of yournewswire.com as well. FBI insider reveals why Jason Chaffetz is being forced out of politics. Jason Chaffetz is retiring from politics because elite Democrats working on behalf of the financial industrial complex, also known as the Rothschilds central banking scam, threatened his children's lives, according to an FBI insider. Now, this is some real news. See, this is what we need everyone hearing right here. I love this. Getting out. Let me read that again, actually. I want to read that again. Jason Chaffetz is retiring from politics because elite Democrats working on behalf of the financial industrial complex, also known as the Rothschilds central banking scam, threatened his children's lives, according to an FBI insider. Let's just call the central bank for what it is. It belongs to Rothschild. We need to mention his name more often. That can't hurt anyone but him. But yeah, Chaffetz effectively ended his career as an uncompromised politician when he pushed through the bill to audit the Federal Reserve, the FBI insider explains. We have a quote here. You don't go after the Fed. Nobody goes after the Federal Reserve and gets away with it. In March, Chaffetz was credited with doing the impossible and pushing a bill through Congress ordering an audit of the Federal Reserve. The bill would allow for a congressional audit of the Federal Reserve's secretive monetary policy, and through the bill is supported by long-term adversaries. And though the bill is supported by long-term adversaries of the Fed, it is ferociously opposed by Fed policymakers and Democrats. And then, they have another. Oh, this quote is interesting. Of course, I've already taken a very modest position on the monetary system. I do take the position that we should just end the Fed. And that quote there is Ron Paul. 3 weeks later, Chaffetz, the young rising star of the Republican Party, shocked the country by announcing he will retire from politics at the end of this term. He refused to go into details except to say that, in quotes, I love my family more than the work, unquote. And we had some John Podesta, no less, actually tweeting, responding to that. Yeah, John Podesta, a Democrat insider's insider, as this article refers to him, I couldn't resist a dig at Chaffetz's troubles, writing on Twitter, when they say it's about family, it's never about family. They show actually a screenshot of the tweet with a post to an article that Chaffetz won't run in 2018. But that's pretty stupid, if you ask me, of a comment, because I mean, actually, it is about family. You know, his family's life was threatened. I think this guy makes this comment to try to imply that it was basically not a threat. You know, he's trying to just act like it's not even imaginable as a joke that the Federal Reserve could threaten to kill your family. No, they wouldn't do that. You know, surely, you know, he realized that, you know, he has a mistress he wants to start spending more time with on holiday or something, and or that he, you know, that he didn't like something about the job and he wants to start a career as a chef or something. I mean, you know, it's kind of, I don't know, it doesn't make sense for him to try to suggest it's not about the family. Hey, if your family's life's threatened, hey, it's kind of about your family, you know. I don't get that tweet, honestly. So it really is someone who's trying to suggest to a naive public that, you know, these sort of death threats wouldn't happen. The article does go on explaining that the Federal Reserve, created and funded by the House of Rothschild, is an institution that many politicians, quote, are uncomfortable with, unquote, but they, quote, learn to leave alone, unquote. The FBI insider said the example of Chaffetz is a textbook study of what happens when the Rothschilds' central banking scam is threatened with exposure. You know, I can't say how right on all this information is, but it's quite unfortunate. You know, this guy was, you know, inspired, you know, having the president behind him this time. Okay, Chaffetz had the actual president, you know, Donald Trump, behind him on this, and still, this result. This is really, really disturbing. But this story needs to get out. You know, this should be headline news of every media outlet. You know, could you imagine? You know, I mean, that sort of thing is what you really need to wake people up to, you know, just why, you know, life is how it is. This is a lot to do with it, more than you can imagine. I mean, you know, we have so much productivity on the planet now, and we don't, you know, we don't need to spend that much time really contributing to it for us all to benefit immensely from the fruits of our labor, of this society. And yet we have all these people working 40 hours a week and still in debt. They could work, if everyone did their share equally. All right, even if you factor in, you know, different types of jobs, maybe, you know, maybe some types of work you need to do a few more hours per week than some other ones, you know, depending on the, you know, the skill level. You know, we could have a couple of things that vary. maintain incentive for jobs that require a lot of skill and expertise. But I mean, no, we could each put in a handful of hours per week. You know, I mean, someone could work a couple hours to 2 days tops, no matter what their trade or line of work. You know, it doesn't matter if you're a doctor, scientist, or a gardener. All right, we shouldn't. None of us should have to put in more than that into the system. But no, it has to all go to the Rothschilds. You see, and this is really where, and you wouldn't even be able to imagine what percentage, would actually be coming back to us. How much money is lost into this system that is a scam. But I digress. We had a little bit more here in this article. Look at the history of the Fed. Name one person who stood up to the Federal Reserve and lived to tell the tale. Well, Andrew Jackson, he survived. There was an attempt on his life, but he did survive. I would have to cite that, so there's hope. What does Andrew Jackson have that we don't? That's what I want to know, because it can be done. He proved it. So that statement is false right there. This person doesn't know their history. I personally wouldn't be surprised if he, referring to Chaffetz, reverses his decision and doesn't retire in 2018, but he will forever be a compromised man. He bit off more than he could chew. He's learned his lesson. Well, compromised man. Well, I don't know. When you threaten the lives of the family, that's asking a lot of a man. I don't begrudge the man in this. I mean, can you put yourself in this situation? That's what I say to anyone out there. And you have to be a caring parent just like he is, or else you couldn't even compare. Keep that in mind. This is actually a nice article. It actually mentions at the end of it, life without the corrupt Federal Reserve. Today, the Federal Reserve Bank is still owned and controlled by the Rothschild family, and we are forced to pay taxes to them every time we get a paycheck from our employers. This is the federal tax on our pay stub. What are we getting for our money? Nothing except an institution working actively against our interests, keeping the banking cartel in billions and ensuring ordinary Americans remain on lower rungs of the ladder. As Ron Paul explained in End the Fed, one only needs to reflect on the dramatic decline in the value of the dollar that has taken place since the Fed was established in 1913. The goods and services you could buy for $1 in 1913 now cost nearly $21. Another way to look at this is from the perspective of the purchasing power of the dollar itself. It has fallen to less than 5 cents of its 1913 value. Okay, so it's less than 5 cents of the dollar it was worth in 1913 for everything you earn. You could be multiplying that. That would mean, okay, by 20 at least. It's saying you could multiply whatever you're making right now by 20. We might say that the government and its banking cartel have together stolen 95 cents out of every dollar. And they have pursued a relentless inflationary policy. Inflationary, that's not even a word, is it? But no, I didn't really want to get on a rant about the Federal Reserve, but it was a good article that, just reminds us of this reality. But yeah, no, Chaffetz had that as what actually triggered the threat. To he and his family. It wasn't looking into Hillary's emails even. It was looking into the Federal Reserve. A private central bank owned by Rothschild. Just to remind you guys out there once more. I like how they just lay it out there like that too. But so there's that aspect of this. Okay. Now, we had the information about this. Well, all of these sources, really. I mean, the Chaffetz, we have an FBI insider. In the case of Trump's shakeup, I had a lot of interesting takes on it from Press TV, for example. But I got to say, even in this case, even Press TV is being a little too, on the fence, and not being willing to defend Trump. The way a lot of this is phrased. I don't know. It seems like they're just going with, where they're getting from other sources, not really adding to it, at least not in a positive way for Trump. I don't get the sense they're, over there at Press TV, they're too pro-Trump, at least. I don't know. I'm not sure why, actually. I mean, maybe because they saw he was either naive or against them. I mean, it looks like he had a lot of Zionists he was already appointing. I don't know if it could really go that deep though for Press TV. I have to wonder. But no, but we had some some very critical good articles from them on a lot of these topics. Now I mentioned Obamagate again as well. There was before these recent names were named of people that Trump might remove. Before these, Press Secretary Sean Spicer, we're hearing now, and Reince Priebus, White House Chief of Staff. But we already knew about Steve Bannon for a while. That's been, Chief Strategist Steve Bannon. He's the one who was from Breitbart. And, he's a claim to associate him with the alt-right, but, Breitbart's very, very pro-Israel as well. So it's that pro-Israeli alt-right. So, I mean, I don't know. But at the same time, compared to just the far left wall of opposition Trump had to deal with, I mean, compared to that, he was, I guess, a bit more refreshing, at the time. Well, we had, and this story here was, let's see, April 6th. We had, coming out of Press TV, and it was mentioning Trump's son-in-law. We know he's Jew, and therefore, very much in line with the Zionist, pro-Israel factions in our government, and probably he was expected to be one of Trump's primary handlers. Is still expected to be one of Trump's primary handlers because of that. So, and this was April 6th, coming out of Press TV, Trump's son-in-law behind Bannon's removal. They had in their report, U.S. President Donald Trump removed White House Chief Strategist Steve Bannon from the National Security Council on advice from his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. A report claims, citing a long-running fight between Kushner and Bannon. Kushner, a one-time New York Democrat, believed that Bannon's desire to deconstruct the government was hurting the president, Politico reported on Wednesday. So it was still being interpreted that, Bannon wanted to deconstruct the government, pull back on big government, it still sounds like a good idea, I mean, we can't agree with everyone on everything, but it seemed like compared to what was in there at the moment, he wasn't going to do more harm than what, preceded him. But we had like one quote saying a big fight is between nationalists and the West Wing Democrats. The report quoted an unnamed senior administration official as saying, and so, yeah, that's how they're trying to categorize nationalists on one side, if you're pro-Trump or against deep state, and West Wing Democrats, as far as, you know, anyone who's a never Trumper or part of that camp. And so, you know, that was like the primary factionalizing. Known as a hardliner nationalist and mocked by critics as the real president because of his influence on Trump, Bannon was removed from his position on the NSC's Principals Committee on Tuesday. All right, this is the phrasing from Press TV, okay? The shakeup also saw the role of Homeland Security Advisor Tom Bossert downgraded, stripping him the authority to convene or chair the Principals Committee as Trump had originally authorized him. And instead, Bossert would serve those roles as delegated by National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster, whose public statements often differed from those of Bannon. And the changes gave McMaster more control over the NSC while putting the Homeland Security Council under his authority. Someone was quoted, an NSC official was quoted saying McMaster won. And people familiar with Kushner's way of thinking knew that in his eyes, Bannon was a big problem for Trump's popularity. So apparently Kushner came to this conclusion after spending a long time asking inside and outside advisors about the White House's performance. And it goes on. This analysis is consistent with Trump's rising confidence in his son-in-law, having tasked him with such sensitive matters as brokering a peace deal between Palestine and Israel. Now, maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I wouldn't trust Jared Kushner with looking out for the best interests of Palestine being recognized as a nation state, which, of course, at the UN Security Council is always the U.S. veto has so much authority and power there, and of course they can't help but do Israel's bidding regarding Palestine. Kushner is also one of the key Trump associates involved in the investigation into his alleged ties to the Russian government. So, and I mean the way that Press TV is phrasing this really paints Trump in a bad light, if you ask me. I mean, I expect this from the corporate media, but earlier this week, Trump sent Kushner to Iraq on an official visit, raising speculations about his role in Trump's future plans for the Arab country. Nevertheless, the return to more traditional NSC was hailed by figures on both sides of the aisle. We have another quote here. "I'd be very pleased that he would not be on the National Security Council," said Senator Ben Cardin of Maryland, a top Democrat on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Oh, I was mentioning the support from McCain for the new potential director of the FBI, Joe Lieberman. Here also we have John McCain, Senate Armed Services Chairman John McCain also called Bannon's removal a good one, a good move, is what they're saying here. So, yeah, I don't know. See, that's what I'm saying. If McCain is against him, I can't help but say, hey, maybe Bannon would have been better than the alternative. It's another indicator because, McCain is as much a war hawk as anyone. And of course, he's very, very pro-Israel. Vice President Mike Pence, however, tried to downplay the decision, calling it a very routine evolution of Trump's security team. Trump's reorganization will allow the National Intelligence Director, Dan Coats, and the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, Marine Corps, General Joseph Dunford, to become regular attendees of the Principals Committee again. Now, this is near the end here of the article. This is very key that they point out here, that this is the same arrangement as in the Obama administration. Trump had initially downgraded the roles of Coats and Dunford and put Bannon on the committee. The Secretary of Energy, the CIA director, and the UN ambassador were added to the Principals Committee following more revisions that Wednesday. And once again, I said this was April 6th that we had this story, but it went back to the same arrangement as in the Obama administration. And if you remember, I was pointing out a little earlier that there were a lot of intentional key positions that Obama strategically left in place when he left, so that Trump would basically be surrounded. That's what we're seeing right now unfolding. Is that very thing right there? There was another good, relevant to the same topic article. I mean, this was Press TV, as I said, and also the one that was covering this is well, not really what I expected from them with the perception of Trump in the shakeup. I mean, it's, I don't know, this paper on the shakeup that's coming out of the same source is just a little too pro-establishment point of view in some ways. I mean, we had two claim just recently of Comey willing to testify in public, and this was a third one that was touching on a similar issue that Press TV actually had out recently as well. FBI director recently dismissed by U.S. President Donald Trump, ready to testify about the matter publicly. Okay, so James Comey was set to testify before the Senate Intelligence Committee in a closed-door session, but he declined the invitation. And he was only willing to testify in public. And when Trump was asked why he fired Comey, very simply, he was not doing a good job, was Trump's response. That's fair enough. He was very actually polite, and not to go into detail if you ask me. But, they want to spin it any way they can here, because, I mean, this article is going on to say the dismissal came as Comey was heading an investigation into alleged coordination between Trump's campaign and Russia, a claim dismissed by both the president and Moscow. It does at least say that. A claim, but still, that's all it's saying. There's a photo here of protesters' posters. These protesters threw all these poster signs on sticks that were trying to be anti-Trump. It's I can't really make it out too well. It's all in Spanish here, but it's anti-Trump. It looks like it's saying anti-fascism or refusefascism.org. Okay, is what it's out of. They have at the bottom, but saying no. I think maybe it's calling Trump a bastard or something. And they threw all these on his star of the Hollywood Walk of Fame, Trump Walk of Fame star. So all these, no to Trump, refuse fascism signs are lying all over the Trump Hollywood Walk of Fame star. And, it's showing that image, though, right after it's mentioning. And Trump fired him, saying he was not doing a good job. The dismissal came after the allegations of Trump and Russia. And then this like photo here. If Comey testifies, he will face questions in the panel about the Russian probe as well as the timing of his dismissal. It goes on to say, he's not shy. He's got a tremendous moral compass. Former FBI Assistant Director Jim Yacone told AP. Above all, he will want to see the truth come out. Now, they're talking about James Comey here, okay? And then this quote from FBI Assistant Director about Comey. Comey was lambasted by Democrats last year for revisiting a once closed investigation. Wait, no, I should make sure you're getting this. Comey was lambasted by Democrats last year for revisiting a once closed investigation into Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton's emails. And then we have a quote here. I think he showed us again and again, I'm independent, damn it, and that's what you want me to be, said Ron Hosko, another former FBI assistant director. And I know some will interpret that as he's got too big for the job. That's what the quote is here. Oh, certainly with this president, he goes on. This is, they're trying to paint Comey in the most brilliant light here. After resurfacing following her 2016 loss, Clinton pointed the finger at Comey as well as the WikiLeaks for her loss. That's how the article ends. And this is out of Press TV. So I don't get it. This article is clearly pro-Comey, pro-Hillary. And trying to sound like very suspicious toward Trump, and then that's what they had May 13th, no less. That was just 5 days ago. Talking about Comey willing to testify in public, and now I'm seeing this story: Trump mulling major White House shakeup out of Press TV, and this is from the 15th, okay? So this was 3 days ago, and it's trying to spin it as a good thing. Like I'm saying, that's where you get all these phrases like major reboot. But, anyone who's looking, like I said, reading all of the lines, of all these paragraphs, all the details, you can see right there what's really going on. And it's not going more in Trump's direction. It's going more away from him. But this article is, trying to sum it all up as a positive. It's called Trump mulling major White House shakeup, and goes on to say U.S. President Donald Trump is considering a major staff shakeup, which may involve some of the highest positions at the White House. A new report has revealed. So right from the start there, it's trying to make it sound like, this is Trump's doing. This is for the good. This is what Trump wants. He's going to shake things up, fix things. But what's happening is that, the temporary appointees are not, that he tried to put in place, are not being kept there, and it's out of his control. What we've really found out is that it's completely out of Trump's control. We've had, a specific detailing of how, we had this other gentleman I was mentioning, Director of Presidential Personnel is this position, Johnny DeStefano, and they're saying they want to purge Trump loyalists in what they're calling a May massacre. Okay? And yet, this other article out of Press TV here, a major mulling, major staff shakeup that Donald Trump's considering is how it's being spun here. Maybe they just have the wrong information, but I have trouble believing that. I think they would have a lot of sources to choose from. So I don't know. It seems very curious that, there's no reason why Iran's people should want to be a pro James Comey or pro Hillary. But who knows? Like I said, Trump is naive enough where he did wind up having a lot of Zionists around him right from the beginning there. I think I'm giving people too much credit though to think that could be the reason. But I don't know. It's just very in line with an anti-Trump vibe. This whole article here, by trying to act like he's in power with this decision. I think it's anti-Trump basically, and it makes more sense when you think about the other two articles I was reading from, which clearly do present things that are spinning them in a way that's really not in Trump's favor. So this is mentioning, this is where one of the sources that names specifically White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus, Chief Strategist Steve Bannon, and Press Secretary Sean Spicer are some of the officials that might be included in the major reboot. Axios News website reported Sunday, citing unnamed confidants within the administration. It's always unnamed confidants with all of this lately, these are just, a lot of this is just random hearsay, that means, for all we know. But here's one quote. He's frustrated and angry at everyone, one source says. The advice he's getting is to go big, that he has nothing to lose. Yeah, I was mentioning that earlier. The confidant added, the question now is how big and how bold. I'm not sure he knows the answer to that yet. Well, this whole article is trying to act like Trump's in control with this shakeup, but really it's a May massacre that's in the hands of Director of Presidential Personnel Johnny DeStefano. We're not even getting that here. This whole article, it's not even mentioning that, which is really ridiculous. So yeah, they didn't have that information. I had to get that elsewhere about that gentleman, and that's really that's just showing just how much, even in the independent media, you're going to get any and every interpretation. You have to make the final call yourself. It takes a bit of work, It takes you want quite a few sources. You want to know what sources can be trusted, which might be open to new ones, but you really have to do your homework here. Perception, though, is key, and perception to a lot of the public who don't do all of this work I'm talking about is what they're mainly playing to. So it's not that hard for them to lie to everyone and get away with it. And then, according to the report, Trump was not satisfied with the way some of his staff had been serving him, this says. It's out of his hands. They're not mentioning this stuff. The Republicans, president's longtime friends and outside advisors have also called on him to change things around. Okay, well, there is the first piece of truth we've had in this whole thing. But you see how they bury it in there. They bury the sentence near the end. The Republican president's longtime friends and outside advisors have also called on him to change things around. Well, that's a very nice way of saying he's being forced by Director of Presidential Personnel Johnny DeStefano. We don't have that in there, but it would be nice. It just concludes saying, apparently talks of the sweeping changes gained more momentum last week after Trump fired former FBI Chief James Comey, who was overseeing two important probes that shaped the Republican president's last year victory against his Democratic rival, Hillary Clinton. That's almost implying that it could have just been out of rivalry and yeah, I don't really like the tone, the way that's employed there. But before the election, Comey led to a controversial probe into Clinton's use of a personal server to exchange government emails while she was Secretary of State. A controversial probe. After the election, he began investigating Trump's alleged ties to Russia, as well as a series of cyber attacks against Clinton's campaign. Cyber attacks against Clinton's campaign did not exist, but that's my 2 cents. Okay, you're not going to find that part in this article. But yeah, it's referring to, after the election, he began investigating Trump's alleged ties to Russia, as well as a series of cyber attacks against Clinton's campaign. This is really trying to be propagated Whatever. Which Democrats claimed were conducted by Russian hackers. They have to throw that in there, huh? The decision has plunged the White House into chaos, with administration officials giving largely contradictory explanations. So, yeah, we have a lot of factionalizing. We've noticed that with all these agencies, these spook agencies, and just everyone is factionalizing completely. It seems like every agency, every party, every section of the government is completely rogue on their own, trying to get everything and as much as they can with infighting with every other faction. And yeah, I don't even really want to read the rest of this to you guys, but for whatever they're trying to spin it as here. While Vice President Mike Pence and others tried to curb speculations that the decision was related to the Russian probe, Trump said Thursday that the Russian thing was on his mind when he fired Comey. The Russian thing, they have in quotes here. Trump said Thursday that the Russian thing was on his mind when he fired Comey. Do you see how this is trying to present Trump? This whole article on Press TV is really making Trump look horrible. I mean, this is ridiculous. It was reported over the weekend that Trump has already considered replacing Spicer with Fox News host Kimberly Guilfoyle. Okay, and they show her, well, that's not really very relevant, but Bannon's possible removal would also come as no surprise, given that his position had already been weakened over a dispute with Trump's son-in-law and senior strategist Jared Kushner. So, okay, Bannon was still upsetting the Zionists, is what that tells me. And, so Trump's son-in-law Zionist handler made sure Bannon is gone. That sounds like that's what did it for Bannon. And we had that other article confirming that. Known as a hardliner nationalist and mocked by critics as the real president, this is just trying to bash Bannon again there. They had that in the other article. So you see that this is, especially where they mentioned at the end there of how, Trump had a Russia thing, as they phrase it. Trump said Thursday that the Russia thing was on his mind when he fired Comey. The way they just throw this stuff together here, I don't know. Yeah, it seems very pro-Comey, pro-Hillary Clinton, anti-Trump coming out of a lot of the vibes I'm getting from the tones of these Press TV articles there. I don't really understand that. When you look at, when you compare, it really doesn't make any sense to me. But so that's it for what it's worth. As I said, we have a lot of different opinions here, and no one has the same opinion of anything these days, it seems. We have this former FBI Director Robert Mueller appointed to oversee the investigation into the Russian interference during the election now. So they're going to run with this. They're going to pretend it's real and hope that maybe you believe that Russia really did have something involved with it. If they shout their lie loud enough, repeat it often enough, and they're just dying to sell this. It seems like that, there's at least a strong percentage in the deep state that want Trump out. They don't even want 4 years of Trump to have to deal with him and possibly compromise their goals. Because, eventually he's going to wise up, at least during all this, in the next 4 years, at least with foreign policy, he eventually you think would wisen up and see how much this is really just all about Israel, trying to carve up the Middle East for greater Israel. He campaigned on focusing on America, a domestic focus. That was what he campaigned on. And, I believe him. All this information is showing that this is not his doing. It seems like he's got everyone against him in the White House, and he's doing all he can just to stay in the White House and fight off all these attacks. and change-ups. As I said, things reverted back to the Obama administration based on some of these changes. Okay, we're having just all of the people who are of the status quo of the deep state who are remaining in control of everything around Trump. So don't be angry with Trump for not fulfilling everything he campaigned on, because right now if you were in his position, you'd be barely staying above water as well, I'm sure. I probably would have pushed Jason Chaffetz. I know I would have pushed Jason Chaffetz to audit the Fed just like Trump. Actually, I would have said, just end the Fed. We don't have to audit them. So, I might be 6 feet under right now already. At least Trump's still alive. But I admire, therefore, some of what he's done. When you look at an example like that, when you look at how Trey Gowdy was working with Chaffetz as well, we see those are two good people. And look, they're turning down. Due to threats, any involvement to help change things. So we need more people like that, and to get the word out, people. I did kind of run over a bit. I'm sorry about that, but I do want you to tune in to Stephen's show. Stephen D. Kelly's show is coming up next. So stick around to check out his show, and we'll have you back here next week. Please tune in again and support us with whatever donations possible. Once again, this is Beyond the Matrix with Richard Kary. And until next time, transcend the construct. Regards.